Welcome, everyone, to the 7th Annual Grant Award celebration of Melbourne Women's Fund. I'd like to begin by expressing that in the spirit of reconciliation, Melbourne Women's Fund sincerely acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as First Australians and traditional custodians of country throughout Australia. We value and respect their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Well, this is it, the night when our year's work culminates in you being able to hear from 6 outstanding organizations about their projects to improve the well-being of vulnerable women and families in Melbourne, and our members being able to vote for which amongst them will receive our $75,000 signature grant and $35,000 nurturing grant. And what a year it's been. When we conducted this event virtually last year, we envisioned it as a one-off. We know now that it wasn't to be, and the pandemic has changed the world as we've known it. We also know that its impact on women has been disproportionately severe, and even more severe for women who were already disadvantaged. Factor in the many barriers that migrant, asylum seeker, and refugee women experience, and we see an even greater need now for employment and economic empowerment, domestic violence services, accessible mental health care, and homelessness support for women across our country and our community. Addressing this need is why we're gathered here tonight, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dedication and generosity of our members and non-member donors. Thanks to them, we're able to grant $130,000 this evening, which means we'll also be granting $5,000 in untied funding to each of the runners-up in recognition of the challenging service and funding demands they face. Also, because even though only 2 can receive the bigger grants, we believe they all deserve to win and deserve our support. It's going to be a hard choice. We would also like to thank our sponsors this evening, Bendigo Elwood Community Bank and Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation. For those of you who may be unaware, Melbourne Women's Fund is a charitable fund account within Lord Mayor's Charitable Fund. In the spirit of mixing things up a bit, we're going to try something new. For those of you who attended our information night, you'll know that each finalist works with a grants committee member, a captain, to assist them through our process. Rather than each finalist presenting as in the past, they will instead engage in an 8-minute interview with their grants committee captain. We'll have a 3-minute question and answer session after each interview. We'll start with the interviews with our 3 nurturing grant finalists, Juno, River Nile Learning Center, and the Social Studio. We'll then take a 5-minute break for you to stretch your legs, refill your beverage, do what you need to do. Then we'll come back for our signature grant interviews with Banksia Gardens Community Services, Fitted for Work, and Free to Feed. And then we vote. Members for the 2020 to 2021 financial years, please make sure you have access to that voting form email you received at approximately 9:35 p.m. this past Sunday, November 14th. It was also resent today to the members who hadn't voted yet. It came from melbournewomen'sfund.grants@gmail.com via SurveyMonkey with the subject line, your personal MWF grants voting email. We've sent several emails and follow-up texts to ensure you've all received it, so hopefully you're all set. You'll have 10 minutes to vote after the interviews. You can vote before then if you wish, but the voting will close at the end of those 10 minutes for final tallying and confirmation by Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation. During that time, you'll hear a few words from our wonderful co-founders, Jillian Hund, OAM, and Pat Burke, OAM, and then we'll announce the recipients of the Signature Grant and Nurturing Grant Awards. As you can tell, there will be a lot of moving parts tonight, so we request your patience if we experience the odd blooper. So some quick housekeeping, this event is being recorded, and please keep yourself muted. That said, we'd love to see your smiling faces. Feel free to chatter away in the chat. Introduce yourself, reach out to friends, whatever. The chat function is also where you should put any questions you might have. So let's begin.
1979, this was the original site for the Banksy Gardens Community Centre. From this location, they ran cooking classes, they had women's groups, they had after-school programs.
In the last couple of years, put together thousands of food parcels. I've been able to refurbish about 800 computers that have been donated from local government, from a variety of people. We've been a COVID testing site and a vaccine site, and we've also had our schools going. So we've had kids on site for most of that time.
Personal outfitting service is designed to help women make a great first impression and step into work with confidence.
We've got a range of clothing in all sizes, a lot of jewellery and makeup products.
This is our donations hub and distribution centre. It's been purpose-built to handle the quantity of donations that we receive every year. SheWork is our social enterprise recruitment solution. SheWork collaborates with employment partners to connect our pool of work-ready women with paid positions.
Free to Feed is a social enterprise that empowers people seeking asylum and refugees through the delivery of shared food experiences. My clients were new arrivals who had all fled persecution and who were super lonely and isolated. So in 2015, I quit my job and started running cooking classes in borrowed cafes.
This is Free to Feed's commercial kitchen, and this will be the grounds of where we will run the CCTV program.
Thank you for coming on the tour of the kitchen with me.
Juno is primarily traditionally been an organisation that works with women who are experiencing homelessness and family violence. Where we've come to is over the last couple of years, we've really been trying to look at how do we really build women's skills and capacity to make long-term change. Whilst we go out and about across all of the northern suburbs, this is our home base. Thank you.
The Social Studio was started in 2009. The original intention was a place for creativity and connection for people from refugee and new migrant backgrounds using the creative arts. We run a free school to deliver a Cert 3 in clothing production that's accredited by RMIT University. And we also operate a social enterprise manufacturing studio that's Ethical Clothing Australia accredited and a socially conscious retail venture.
Juvenile Learning Centre was initially founded in 2006 to assist the African refugee community. We also provide free childcare. We also have a food bank, which we offer staple food items and things that our students help our students keep connected. And today we currently offer EAL and digital literacy classes to young refugee and asylum seeker women. When you educate the mother, you educate the whole family. That's why we focus on young women, and particularly young women with children.
Our thanks to Matt Porter of Matt Porter Post for producing that video using snippets from our virtual site tours. So we're now going to start with our interviews. First up are our Nurturing Grant finalists. Starting those interviews is Juno. Juno's project is titled Empower Peer Connect, Social Networks for Economic Mobility and Well-Being. This project aims to support marginalized women to achieve employment and life goals. Through peer meetups and group courses, the participants will build work and life skills, social connections, and a mentoring network. The Juno team here with us tonight are CEO Jade Blackarley and Empower coach Tessa Douglas. Interviewing Jade and Tessa is Grants Committee member Joe Cavanaugh.
Thank you, Christine, and hello to Jade and Tessa. Great to see you here again. Let me start by asking you a bit about your organisation. Can you tell me why Juno exists and what kind of work you do in our community.
Thanks, Jo. So Juno's been operating for just under 20 years, and we work right across the northern suburbs of Melbourne to support women who are experiencing homelessness and family. It's traditionally what we've been funded for, but over the last few years we've really been wanting to focus on how do we also support women to make long-term change, to impact and then have more control over their own recovery. So that's kind of what we've been focusing on, and particularly looking at economic empowerment and how do we build women's financial security and financial capacity, because we know that has such a big impact on all the other things that are happening for them.
Thank you, Jade. So let's talk about the project you've put forward for grant support. Can you tell me about the purpose of the project and why it's needed?
Yeah, so Empower is a trauma-informed coaching model that is based upon a similar program in the US that was developed by not-for-profit organisation Empath in collaboration with Harvard University. So the model recognises that the cycle of poverty can continue even once people are out of crisis, and aims to support women from a really holistic perspective to build the necessary skills and mindsets to create economically secure futures. So over the last 6 months or so, we've begun one-on-one coaching with women who have experienced homelessness and family violence, but are now in a more stable position in their lives and ready to set goals to enhance their economic independence. So whilst the one-on-one coaching is really essential, the evidence base coming from the US points out that the group work is an important element in really creating those stronger networks for greater social support and linking the women into a variety of employment and educational opportunities. So we know from working with women who've gone through these experiences that economic insecurity is a hugely significant factor in keeping them trapped in unsafe situations. So our aim for the Empower Peer Connect group work is to hold group meetups for the women in the program every 6 weeks. This will partly involve activities selected by the women based on what they want to learn more about, as well as creative activities designed to help the women connect more, share their goals, and develop work and life skills together. We know from a trauma-informed perspective that building really safe and supportive relationships is a major factor in their healing journey. We'll also plan a schedule of workshops focused on finances and savings, career and education goals, employment and training links, and health and wellbeing focused workshops. We'll utilise our existing partnerships with organisations such as Women's Employment Program, Macaulay Works, Bridge Darebin, Darebin City Council, Women Can, and others to deliver these workshops, as well as bringing in speakers from a variety of backgrounds. Earlier this year, we actually ran one group work session just before Melbourne went into lockdown. The focus there was on promoting a 6-week financial literacy course for women that we had designed with the local neighbourhood house, The Bridge. Within that group work session, we came together to speak about financial literacy needs and what the women were wanting to learn more about. And all the women in the program ended up signing up to the course. So from this, many of the women set a goal of saving $500 in 4 months, and many are close to reaching their goal, and one woman reached her savings goal just a few weeks ago, and as an added incentive, we matched her savings. So she now has $1,000, which will go towards a holiday with her 2 kids.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, it is.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So we
I'm just going to move on. I'm just going to move along, Tessa, because we've got short time, but that's fantastic. So just tell us a bit more then about why you need funding for this project, and do you have any other sources of financial and in-kind support?
Yeah, thanks, Jo. So we have been very lucky to be supported with the one-on-one aspects of the program through a grant from Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation and also from the Phyllis Connor Memorial Trust. And so that's really enabled us to set the program up with the individual component, but we know the value of adding the peer connect aspect. We know what those connections and relationships do for women and the opportunity to develop the skills. So as Tessa mentioned, we've got a number of in-kind partners, and we're very lucky with the individual program, but this peer aspect is really what we're hoping to be able to fund with the support of Melbourne Women's Fund.
Terrific. So how will you know if this project has been a success, and how will you measure the impact?
Yeah, so our measures of success are 1, increased positive social networks and community building, and 2, that the women have greater access to career-related advice, guidance, employment and study connections. As for how we will measure the impact, the program will be formally monitored and evaluated by an evaluation group called For Purpose Evaluation, and they will analyse the educational, employment and training outcomes from the networks formed through the coaching and group work directly, and we'll also have ongoing debriefing and feedback sessions with the participants to learn more about how they're finding the information and activities.
Great. So what's your long-term goal for the project? Is it a stepping stone to something else?
Yeah, look, I think, as I said, we've been really keen to understand better how to do that recovery and non-crisis work. So really, we're obviously very committed to the 40 women that are in this project and the outcomes for them. But at the same time, what we're really wanting to do through this work is to refine and develop a model for how to work with women who've been in crisis in a way that's building recovery and building their own capacity to build the lives that they want for themselves and their families. So what we're really wanting to do is, by the end of the project, to have a model that is scalable and replicable, can be repeated,
replicated,
and spread out across a broader series of organisations, and give us a bit more idea about how to do the work.
That's wonderful. Look, thank you both so much for telling us about Juno and about your project. Let's just check and see if there's any questions. Louise, have we got any questions?
Thanks so much, Tessa and Jade. Yeah, I do have a couple of direct questions, actually. Perhaps, Jade, I could go to you. Beyond the 30 women, what is the potential for this program to be continued, or is it a one-off commitment by Juno?
Look, it's definitely not a one-off commitment. We've just developed, in the process of finalising our next strategic plan, which really holds this type of work and these kind of projects at the centre of what we're doing. And what we're hoping to achieve through the evaluation is also in part to build a base for which we can seek more ongoing and sustainable funding, because we think it's a model that we'd like to grow for us, but we'd like to support other organisations to look at this way of working as well.
Thank you. And Tessa, what happens for the children of the women whilst they're in the program?
Yeah, well, because it's quite a holistic program, family and relationships is one of the things that we focus in on. So we don't work directly with the children, but we found the evidence from the US kind of explains that once the women are in the process of the goal setting, then those kind of practices flow on quite naturally to their children as well.
Great. And I've just got one more direct question to me. It's not in the chat, but as this is a program developed in the US, what confidence do we have that it'll be successful in Australia? Do you want to answer that, Tessa?
Yeah. I think a big thing that we've realised is the kind of essence of the program is focused around neuroscience and how the brain is impacted upon by trauma. So that is applicable in an Australian context. And also we did a lot of work with consultation companies beforehand, kind of adapting it to the Australian context, looking at welfare system and just, lots of different aspects to kind of tweak it from the US model to be adaptable to the Australian context.
Great presentation. Thanks. Back to you, Jo.
Thank you both so much, and we wish you the best of luck in the voting for this evening. Thank you, Juno. Back to you, Christine.
Thanks, Joe. Our next Nurturing Grant finalist is the River Nile Learning Center with their project titled Preparing Refugee and Asylum Seeker Women for Employment. This project aims to place newly arrived refugee and asylum seeker women into respectful, ongoing paid employment, providing them with greater independence and integrating them as productive members of the community. Here for River Nile Learning Center are Executive Officer Elizabeth Davey and Deputy Chair of the River Nile Learning Center Board, Nadia Farragar. They will be interviewed by Grants Committee member Diane Carey.
Thanks, Christine, and welcome Elizabeth and Nadia. Thanks for being with us tonight. Can we begin by asking you to describe to everyone here what River Nile Learning Centre is about and what work you do in our community?
I'll start. The River Nile Learning Centre empowers young women from refugee and asylum seeker background through education to acquire language, life and work skills to integrate into and thrive in our community. We were established in 2006 to assist African refugees, and we prioritize single mothers as they face the greatest barriers to education. So we provide English language literacy and numeracy education, that's our focus, with an additional focus on digital literacy, as the pandemic showed us, just how vital this was for everyone, but particularly for our cohort. We also provide free childcare on site, and we have free Mikeys, so the students can travel to school, but also, just be mobile. Food and material aid, support through our dedicated social workers who help students manage complex housing, legal, personal and financial issues.
Okay, great. Now, in regards to the project that you're hoping to start soon, can you explain why this project is needed and a little bit about it?
Yeah, of course. So all RNLC students want to be productive members of society. Their goal overwhelmingly is to find paid employment, to support themselves, have a sense of independence, and to build a life in Australia for themselves and their children. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, culturally and linguistically diverse women have only a 47.3% participation in the workforce. And in our cohort of young mothers, that is significantly lower just because of the many, many barriers they face. So students complete our English as an additional language program, and they have the language skills necessary for employment, but these barriers leave them dependent on welfare or charitable organisations just to meet even their basic needs. So one of the biggest barriers that our students face is that they don't know how to get a job. Like, it's a matter of confidence and contacts and cultural familiarity. Our students don't have resumes or references yet. They don't know how to search for jobs online or have a tax file number or how to get required qualifications like a food handling certificate. And there just isn't time in our EAL class for us to cover all of this. So we propose the work readiness training to overcome these obstacles. We currently have 20 students who want and need this training, and this number will grow to 30 in 2022 as women are referred to us. The Melbourne Women's Fund Nurturing Grant will allow us to engage the award-winning Service Stars, our partner organisation, to deliver specialised tailored training to our cohort. So Jane of Service Stars will deliver the training at our learning centre. It'll be 10 full-day sessions that will cover workplace rights and responsibilities, work skills and actual work tasks. Jane will then broker respectful work placements for each student with service industry, retail and hospitality companies that she knows support new arrivals and offer good working conditions. That's very important to us because our students have in previous employment been taken advantage of. So following the placement, Jane and RNLC staff and volunteers will seek ongoing jobs for students and individually mentor them for 12 months while they gain confidence and experience. I'd like to briefly bring to life for you the impact this program can have with 2 case studies of former students of RNLC, Zara and Harut, who have both worked with Jane. Zara is an asylum seeker from Iran with 2 children, and her goal is a good future for herself and her family. She worked with Jane in one-on-one mentorship and then started as a casual employee with one of Service Star's partner employers. After a year, she started mentoring new trainees, and she's since been converted to permanent part-time. Harut is an asylum seeker and single mother from Ethiopia. She had training in career counselling with Jane and has gone on to complete a Certificate 3 in individual support. In 2022, she's undertaking a Certificate 4 in aged care, as respect and dignity for elders is one of her core values, and she wants to contribute to this sector. At RNLC, our motto is that when you teach the mother, you teach the whole family, and we want our students to have these skills for life and to be able to pass them on to their children.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, in regards to finances, apart from seeking Melbourne Women's Fund funding, are there any other sources of income that you can draw on to help you get this project started, either like monetary or in-kind support?
Yeah, of course. So we do have some in-kind support from service stars for the program and for the previous students who've done training. At the moment, we rely entirely on grants, donations and philanthropic support to run our core EAL and digital literacy programs. We also run this through partnership with North Melbourne Language and Learning, who provide the teaching. So we've covered all the overheads of our programs and services, our rent and staff costs, childcare material aid, through grants from the City of Melbourne, Sydney Maya Fund and Maya Foundation and private donations. And we're also supported by our amazing volunteer team with a lot of in-kind support and volunteer hours. But in order to get this particular program off the ground, this pilot program, we need the Women's Fund Nurturing Grant to cover service staff's professional fees and also any qualifications, clothing and materials for the students, which will be on an as-needed basis.
Now, how will you know if the project is successful? How will you measure its impact?
Yeah, of course. So the main metric we'll be using is feedback from the students on their training, the work placements and mentorship, feedback from service stars and the student mentors who mentor the students following their training, feedback from the work placement employers, which will also inform our mentors to help the students over the 12 months, and also the number of students securing ongoing paid employment within or moving on to further education within the 12 months of the mentorship. Yeah, the ultimate goal is that our students are integrated into the community.
All right, well, just one last question from me. Can you share your long-term vision for this project? Say what you expect it maybe in 12 months' time.
I'll take that. So we're confident that we will be able to sustain the project beyond 2022, as this pilot, program will allow us to build an evidence-based, to approach business and philanthropic, funding resources to secure our ongoing funding. So RNLC has been educating refugee and asylum seekers since its inception in 2006. Over this period, all our services have been supported by grants and donations. This has been made possible by strong ongoing community support and volunteers, partners and donors. We're currently in the process of securing long-term funding for RNLC core programs through bequests and partnerships with businesses. Thanks, Diane.
Okay, good. Well, thanks, ladies, for sharing with us about the River Nile Learning Centre. Now I'll check with Louise and see if we have any other questions for you.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth and Nadia. And for anybody who's just recently joined us, please feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat function. But I do have a couple of direct questions here. So the first question, perhaps to you, Elizabeth, how do the students manage this course if they have limited English skills?
Yeah, of course. So our English program is run at several different levels. So we meet the students where they are because our students have varying levels of English. And so our teachers develop individual learning plans for the students throughout the program and set individual goals. So this allows us to be quite flexible in our teaching approach. The work readiness program will be delivered in three terms. And so there'll be 3 programs of training for each student to start. So they'll be able to start when they're ready, and we'll be able to group students of a similar level with similar interests into each group so that they can match the training to the students' skills.
Wonderful, thanks. Question from Pat here. Does the program have links to employers, or is it up to the course contractor service stars to find work placements, Nadia?
Yeah, Service Stars has been, and Jane has been doing this sort of work for a very long time. They've worked with Peter Rowland, catering. We've had students who worked at the races and the MCG, and it happens every year. Yeah, so sometimes students do find opportunities themselves and we can get them ready. And other times we link them, and that's all it takes. Once they have those networks, you get the connections going, they find their feet.
Great. And finally, the Nurturing Grants pays for the training program. What other expenses are there that the other donations cover? Elizabeth.
Donations at the moment, they cover our childcare. They fund a part-time childcare educator, and they also fund our material aid, and including food bank, Mikey's, data packs for the students, things like that.
Thank you so much for a great presentation, Diane.
Oh, thanks, Louise, and thank you, ladies. All the best tonight for you both and for River Nile. And I'll give it back to Christine now. Thanks.
Thanks, Diane. Our last Nurturing Grant finalist to speak is the Social Studio with their project titled Designing Our Futures, Women's Empowerment Scholarships. This project aims to overcome barriers to economic and social participation faced by refugee and migrant women by enhancing their educational and employment opportunities. Joining us tonight for the Social Studio are CEO Davy Cook and Philanthropy Executive Kate Coleman. They will be interviewed by Grants Committee Deputy Chair Kate Eddy.
Hi again, Davy and Kate. Lovely to see you. Can you just start by telling us a bit more about the Social Studio?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. The Social Studio is a not-for-profit social enterprise providing work and learning opportunities for people from refugee and new migrant backgrounds across fashion, design and the creative arts, which is why we're in a sewing room right now. We started in a small shop front on Smith Street in Collingwood in 2009, and last year we moved to the Collingwood Yards Arts Precinct. We run a free school on site here in Collingwood, teaching a Cert 3 in clothing production with our education partner RMIT, and we have an Ethical Clothing Australia accredited manufacturing studio, as well as a socially conscious retail venture which stocks the work of Black, Indigenous and culturally diverse creatives. We work predominantly with people from, with female or female identifying people from refugee or new migrant backgrounds who've become disengaged from traditional modes of education, are at risk of social exclusion and face barriers to economic and social participation. And we believe in the value of creativity, opportunity and community.
Wonderful. And can you tell us about the particular project that you've put forward for this grant round, please?
Yeah, sure. I want to answer that question, I suppose, by telling you the story of one of our students, Asal. Asal came to Australia as a young woman in her 20s after a very traumatic boat crossing from Christmas Island in 2010. She spent a year in detention on the island and then in community detention in Melbourne, and she had no visa or working rights at that time, and it was a very difficult, extremely tough point in her life. She came to one of our social sewing classes in 2012, and once her protection visa was approved, she came back to study our Cert 3 program, and she graduated with us in 2019. And we've supported Asal since then to enrol in further study, coordinated industry internships for her, and we're proud to say that this week she's returned back to us as a casual in our production studio while she juggles the demands of this busy life of study and family. And she once told us that TSS was the starting point for her to feel alive again, which is obviously an incredible thing to hear. And I guess I talk about Asal's experience because it really illustrates a few of the things that we know about the settlement process for people arriving in Australia as refugees and new migrants. We know that even though they may speak multiple languages when they come here, they may not have enough English to find work, or that their qualifications may not be recognised. We know that they may not have the networks to find that work, and that might lead to a lack of confidence or social and economic isolation. And we know that the refugee experience itself leaves many with long-lasting trauma that inhibits their ability to fully participate in life and work. And we also know that settlement in particular might be difficult for women facing specific barriers relating to shifting gender norms, or conversely, who find themselves suddenly shouldering the burden of family and caring responsibilities, without the support of their safety network from home. So the scholarships that we're pitching for tonight are designed to address many of those challenges and barriers. Through them, we'll deliver education opportunities through our Cert 3 program in clothing production. We'll provide individual goal setting and development learning plans to give them the best chance at long-term success. We'll coordinate and deliver wraparound services to support them and ease them into the world of work, including work readiness and financial literacy programs, English language support, as well as information on women's rights and Australian cultures, values and norms. And importantly, we'll deliver pathway opportunities into further education, work experience and internships within the textile industry, but also beyond.
Okay, thank you. That's a comprehensive overview. Do you have any other sources of financial or in-kind support? Why do you need funding for this project?
I'll take that. So the Social Studio as an organisation operates our various programs with a hybrid model of funding. So that's comprised of our own self-generated funding through our social enterprise activities, and in addition to external philanthropic support. This particular program has always been and still is currently reliant on philanthropic grants. So the development and initial launch and delivery of the program was funded by the Ian Potter Foundation, and it has continued to be delivered over the years with support from others such as Jeff Brockhoff Foundation, the Tucker Foundation, Cliff Roy Community Bank, and this calendar year has been funded by the Inner North Community Foundation and the Matana Foundation. So we need funding in order to deliver the program in 2022 for 10 more women.
I see. That's very clear. How will you know if you implement this project, whether it's been a success, and how will you measure that?
Yes. So we know that 89% of our students go on to further education and or employment once they leave the Social Studio, and that's a stat that is really important to us and we're really proud of. So to ensure that our programs deliver what we say it will, we've developed a comprehensive system for measuring the power of the support that we provide. So this system has been developed in consultation with specialists in evaluation and impact measurement. So the BYP group and the Ian Potter Foundation helped us with this. So what we do is we ask our students at the beginning, the middle and the end of their scholarship to complete self-report surveys that have been custom designed to measure key success factors using what's called a distance travelled framework. This means that we track and measure the progress made towards employability and other key outcomes such as knowledge and skill development, confidence, social inclusion and well-being.
Oh, I see. Is there a longer term goal? Is it a stepping stone to something else?
Yeah, so I guess we know that the program is core to achieving some of those long-term goals that I spoke about before, like giving students locally recognised qualifications, opportunities for work experience, building their sense of social connection and sense of self-confidence. And so in that way, it's really essential to improving the well-being of the vulnerable women and their families that we work with at the Social Studios. And our long-term goal is to use impact measurement that Kate's just described from this project to add to our evidence base, because we really want to seek sustained support from governments to deliver, what we consider a vital program.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you so much for telling us about the Social Studio and your project, and I'll pass over to Louise to see if there's any further questions. Thanks, Kate and Dewi.
Thanks, great presentation. So I do have a couple of direct questions that have come to me. So if anybody else has a question, please feel free to put it in the chat. What employment opportunities are there for participants who finish the program?
Do you want me to take that? Yeah, sure. So we have formal relationships with Kukai, the clothing brand, who've committed to providing an internship within their production studio for graduates. We also offer our own paid internship program, which is available to students and alum, which we launched this year, but consecutive lockdowns have prevented us from currently hiring anybody, but we'll be doing that from January. And we also have had a number of our students go on to work at Nobody Denim in Thornbury, and many of them remain there. So those are just within the industry, and we've had a number of students go on to other careers in other fields such as finance, community development, human rights work.
Thank you. And perhaps, Julie, you could answer this one. Question from Gillian. Do participants contribute to the cost of the training?
No, participants don't contribute to any part of their training. We, through our agreement with RMIT, who's education partner, fees are waived for students, including their student services fees, and we provide them with all materials and other items for learning. So both fabric trims, scissors, obviously all the machineries here. We've provided students through lockdown with mobile broadband sets so that they can participate in online learning. We just try to remove every barrier that we can to make learning as easy as possible for them.
Great. Okay, thank you. And just one final question that I've received. How do students become aware of the scholarship?
Because we've been operating, I guess, for over 12 years now, we've got really good networks. So we receive referrals from organisations like migrant resource centres and things like that. So that's the more formal sort of organisation to organisation pathway. But I would say predominantly, and something we're quite proud of, is most of our students come to us through word of mouth. So people really enjoy their time here, and then they tell their friends and their family. And we have at some stages had like people
entire family groups,
parents and children attending the course together. So yeah, a lot of word of mouth, but we also do have those linkages into the community services sector.
Wonderful presentation. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
And now I'll hand back over to Christine, who needs to come off mute.
Yes, come off mute. That would help. Well, thank you very much, Kate. And thank you to Juno, River Nile Learning Center, and the Social Studio. That concludes our Nurturing Grant interviews. We're back. Welcome back. We're now moving on to our Signature Grant interviews. First up is Banksia Gardens Community Services, who are seeking support for their Good People Act Now. That acronym is GPAN. They'll probably refer to it throughout their interview. Schools Hub Project. This project aims to increase knowledge about gender equality as a means of preventing family violence and violence against women. A key objective is to empower young people in the municipality of Hume to use their voice and raise awareness of the issue in their community. Here tonight, representing Banksia Gardens Community Services, are Gender Equity Coordinator Georgia Ransom and Gender Equity Officer Emily Sporek. They will be speaking with Grants Committee Co-Chair Simone Clancy.
Thanks, Christine, and hello. Warm welcome to Georgia and Emily. Lovely to see you both.
Hello.
Can we start with a brief introduction to Banksia Gardens? Tell us a little bit more about your history, your purpose, and the work that you do in the community.
Great. Thank you, Simone. Can everyone hear me okay? Beautiful. Banksia Gardens is a very vibrant neighbourhood house and community service organisation in Broadmeadows, which is the northern suburbs of Melbourne. We have a strong commitment to community development and creating opportunities for people and communities who are experiencing disadvantage and poverty. Our programs encompass early childhood, adult education, youth engagement, environmental sustainability, community participation, social justice, and advocacy. I am biased, but one of my favourite programs at Banksia is the Good People Act Now project, also known as GPAN, which is what brings us here tonight. GPAN is a youth-led action group working to promote gender equality and prevent violence against women in Hume and surrounds. This project was established in 2014 in response to the high rates of family violence in Hume.
Thanks. And that is a very good segue into my next question, which is for you guys to tell us a bit more about the GPAN Schools Hub project.
I would absolutely love you to tell you everything about our GPAN School Hub project. We've applied for the signature grant to fund a new pilot project, GPAN School Hubs, which is a significant extension of the GPAN project. The GPAN project is based on current best prevention of family violence in Australia. Our Watch, who are the national body for the prevention of violence against women and their children, has found that gender inequality sets the necessary social context in which violence against women occurs. The GPAN project focuses on the 4 actions that prevent violence against women, such as challenging gender stereotypes and strengthening equal and positive relationships. The GPAN School Hub project is for students aged 15 to 18 from multicultural backgrounds enrolled in local secondary schools in Hume. GPAN will partner with local schools to recruit 10 to 15 young people to become GPAN ambassadors. The ambassadors will receive training over 6 weeks on topics such as Intro to Gender Equity and Family Violence, gender stereotypes, respectful relationships, bystander action, and more. The GPAN ambassadors, with support from ourselves and school staff, will conduct gender equality audits of their school and plan actions to raise awareness and create positive change as part of a whole of school approach. The GPAN School Hub project is designed to complement the respectful relationship curriculum. Through our relationships with the Department of Education and Training, we know that schools are hesitant to roll out topics 7 and 8 of the respectful relationship curriculum. These 2 topics focus on gender and identity and positive gender relations, which include all the topics GPAN covers. The GPAN School Hubs fulfill what's been termed the critical friend role, that is, organisations who specialise in these areas and can assist staff to deliver the more sensitive and tricky content. The reason why we target young people is because they are best placed to stop violence before it starts. The purpose of this project is to arm young people with the skills and knowledge to be advocates for gender equality and the prevention of family violence. As these young people move into adulthood, we hope to see a shift in the alarming statistics in this country, one of which currently sees a woman die every week at the hands of a current or former partner. Our approach of having young people train young people in matters of gender equality and family violence is the only such project we know of in Victoria. In 2019, GPAN was awarded the Neighbourhood House's Victorian inaugural Fiona Richardson Award for Gender Equity in recognition of our innovative work. We found that young people are often drawn to GPAN through their lived experiences with family violence, either in their own homes or the homes of their friends. The GPAN project provides language and knowledge to understand their experiences and build important peer-to-peer support networks. We know that young people are the driving force behind many social justice issues, and we are aiming to help channel their passion into productivity to create real change in their schools and wider communities. We've worked with schools in the past to deliver one-off sessions to students, and we know this doesn't work. Students and teachers need people with specialist knowledge to deliver and navigate this tricky and often confronting work. This is why we have designed this project to be delivered over a number of school terms. We know that young people are keen to be involved to take action against family violence and violence against women, and we are looking for the tools to do so. In 2018, when Eurydice Dixon was murdered by a Broadmeadows local, the GPAN YAG established the Eurydice Dixon Gender Equality Champion Award, an award that acknowledges the achievements of 2 young people each year in their commitment to gender equity with a $500 scholarship for professional development. This award is representative of the amazing work young people can achieve when provided with resources and opportunities, and this is what we aim to do throughout the GPAN School Hubs.
Wonderful, thank you for that, and thank you for providing the context to the project and GPAN more broadly. So why do you need funding for the GPAN School Hubs project?
Great question. So the GPAN project currently has funding from the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, and we require additional funding for the School Hubs project because it is such a substantial extension to GPAN. So we require this funding for the project because we know that schools have so many competing demands and a limited amount of funds, so external funding is necessary to be able to continue to carry out this work. The signature grant would partly fund the project, and we would also receive in-kind support from Banksia Gardens and the schools that we partner with. More broadly, this project needs to be funded in order to address the high rates of family violence in Hume. In 2020, we had the second highest numbers of violence against women in metropolitan Melbourne, and those rates have rapidly increased during the pandemic over the last couple of years.
Good. Thank you, Georgia. So how will you know the GPAN Schools Hub project's been a success, and how are you going to measure the impact of the project?
Great question. Success to us will look like a general shift in attitudes toward gender inequality and increased knowledge and confidence to undertake bystander actions by student and staff at the schools that we work with. Monitoring and evaluation are embedded in the GPAN School Hub project, so that impacts are measured in a number of ways. There'll be a pre and post survey for students and staff who are working closely with the project. We also conduct a focus group at the end of the project to ensure that we receive that qualitative data. And at Banksia, we are blessed to work with Dr. Eric Dommers, who is a research and evaluation specialist, and a group of international uni students from the USA, whose role it is to assist us with continuing best practice and ongoing evaluation. Beyond this, we see the success of the project through the development of the young people who come through it. There have been so many success stories from GPAN. Georgia and I are both project alumni. We started volunteering with GPAN in 2017 and 2018, and the fact that we are now coordinating the project is a testament to its practice producing young leaders in the space. So we're really excited to see who comes up through our School Hub project.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Otherwise, I certainly would have. Fantastic to see you as alumni presenting tonight. So longer term goals for the project.
Yeah, great question. So in 2023, after the rollout of the pilot project, we will shift to a fee for service model, either by partnering directly with the schools or by being contracted to deliver this work by other organisations, including DPV Health and Hume City Council, who we have existing partnerships with. Once the pilot project receives all the positive feedback that we know it will, we will of course endeavour to secure ongoing funding. When GPAN started in 2014, it was initially funded by philanthropy, as is the case with many ongoing programs at Banksia. And after the initial pilot project has been run, we often receive ongoing support from government bodies. And as you can tell, 8 years later, the impact GPAN makes in the community is still being recognised. And of course, our longer term vision is to replicate GPAN hubs in schools across Hume and metropolitan Melbourne to create a network of hubs that will allow for inter-school collaboration and shared learning. So the sky's the limit with GPAN hubs.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Louise, do we have any questions for Georgia and Emily?
Of course. Thanks, everybody. Great presentation, Georgia and Emily. I might just go to the chat. Do you find GPAN participants gain support from their families or other adults in their lives with what they are learning and doing?
Yeah, in general we do, but we also know that in doing this work, we want to be able to challenge people. There's no point only talking to the people who are on our side and are already advocates for gender equality. We want to change people's minds and we want to get them on board. So we have what we call a GPAN circle at the start of every meeting, and that's when we bring our stories of bystander action or could be bystander action to the group, and we workshop ideas as to how we can approach that when it comes up next, when we come up against someone who isn't quite on our side. And that's what we'll do with the young people at GPAN School Hubs as well. Is there something you wanted to add?
I think I'd say from our experience, we found that young people who are GPANers become the go-to for their friends as well. Like they become known within their peer groups and within their schools that they're people that care about this and are passionate, and it kind of encourages conversations to start long after, you know, if they've left the project or they're not volunteering with us anymore. We hear like a lot of those anecdotal conversations come back to us, which we're always so proud to hear.
Thank you. And how many schools do you hope to introduce the GPAN program, and are you looking to expand outside the Hume City area?
Yeah, so in its first iteration, we would ideally like to be in 4 schools, and Banksia has numerous partnerships within Hume City Council, within schools. I think we work with something like 20 schools. So we already have existing partnerships that we could easily slot into with this new program. And yes, I mean, as I said, the sky's the limit. After the first year, once we have those 4 schools under our belt, I think the program will just get bigger and better from there. And we definitely hope to expand outside of Hume.
Great. And one last one, how do you identify and recruit GPAN participants?
Yeah, great question. With the schools program, we will partner with wellbeing staff at the school, and they will help us. They will identify students for us because they're the experts on their cohort that would want to be part of the GPAN project or would benefit from the GPAN project. And we would, of course, also let students nominate themselves as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Georgia and Emily. That was a great presentation, Simone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, ladies. And I'll hand back to you, Christine.
Thanks, Simone. We'll now hear from Fitted for Work, which is seeking support for their Women's Economic Empowerment Program. This project aims to create a pipeline of 300 empowered, skilled, work-ready women who will have access to employment through Fitted for Work's recruitment social enterprise. The Fitted for Work team here with us today are Jobs Victoria advocate Marcia Scott and She Works manager Liz Truella. They will be speaking with Grants Committee member Sarah Davies.
Thank you very much, Christine, and welcome Liz and Marcia. Can I just start, please, by asking you, could you please introduce Fitted for Work, why it exists, when it was established, and who it seeks to help?
Thanks, Sarah. So Fitted for Work's vision is economic independence and positive change for women, identifying that the best path to achieve this is through access to employment. We support the women who would otherwise slip through the cracks. We see women with PhDs, women who haven't finished high school, women who've experienced domestic violence, migrant refugee women, older women, single mothers, women at risk of becoming homeless. Our tailored holistic job readiness programs and services support women to establish the tools, the skills, the mindset, and the support network to become work ready so they can move forward with confidence and enter into the workplace.
Thank you. And now the project, can we turn to that please, for which you're seeking funding? So the need for the project, what will be undertaken and why it's important for it to be funded now.
Hi, my name is Marcia, and to illustrate our project, I'd like to tell you my story. I came to Fitted for Work in March 2020 when the pandemic hit. I wanted a job and I had everything going against me. Mature age, away from home, went from the workforce for 18 years to raise children, and an immigrant from Brazil. I was a registered job seeker, but my consultant didn't have time to speak to me because she had to speak to 120 other job seekers a week. I was told my employment experience was too old and it was too difficult to get a job during COVID. In my first appointment at Fitted for Work, a consultant said to me that my work experience was not too old or irrelevant. I had transferable skills. She helped me redesign my resume. She taught me methods to answer tough questions at interviews because I found the formality and the language very difficult to manage. I learned to write cover letters to match job ads instead of using a unique template. I had found what I needed, an employment consultant, but more than that, I had found sisters who were helping me along my journey and saying things like this: it's okay you didn't get this particular job. It's okay, now you have more experience for the next interview. There will be a job that will be the perfect match for you and a unique set of skills. Let's continue working on your resume. Let's continue practicing for interviews. I felt supported. I had a virtual outfitting session during lockdown. Not only did I feel great when the designer outfits arrived 48 hours later via mail, the fashion consultant treated me like a princess, and she was asking me questions about my taste in clothes. I felt so important. I participated in LinkedIn workshops, and I learned to do my online profile and how to call the attentions of recruiters on LinkedIn. I felt so modern. I did the Emerge program. The online modules were packed with suggestions for well-being. I learned to journal, to list my hopes and dreams, and to list my negative and positive self-thoughts, how to build confidence and also self-worth. I learned the negative things I was saying to myself during those trying times were not helpful. And I met with other job seekers weekly to share testimonials. I felt I wasn't alone. I felt validated. Fitted for Work polished my skills, but even more so than that, they made me believe in myself again. And now I use my lived experience to help other people find employment. March this year, I became jobs advocate for the Victoria government. I deal with many women who fall through the cracks, and employment is the key. They are isolated housewives wanting to flee domestic violence and not knowing where to start. They are mature age women at risk of becoming homeless who cannot find employment. They are single moms who have to move from one place to another when using community housing services. They are ex-offenders with limited chances to find employment because they're dealing with stigma. They are immigrants, they are asylum seekers who don't have connections in Australia, international students willing to find an employment path to become a citizen of this beautiful country. They all have one thing in common. Employment is the key to ease their predicament. And I refer them to Fit for Work because I know they will not let go of them until they can find a job. They need Fit for Work because it's a safe environment to flourish again. More than ever, and in the aftermath of this pandemic, they need sisters to help them to be job ready and secure employment. To quote a famous movie, this is the part of my life I call happiness. And I thank you if you can provide resources to 300 more women Fit for Work can help with an all-inclusive service that will allow them to be empowered again, no matter what vulnerability they are facing at any point of their lives. Thank you for your time. We got this.
Thank you very much, Marcia. Now, Liz, can I ask you, please, will the project be evaluated, the SheWorks project be evaluated, and what will success look like?
Yeah, so we'll know that this program has been successful over the course of the 12 months as we see a pipeline of empowered, skilled, work-ready women coming through the Fit for Work services and entering the SheWorks candidate pool. We have applicant tracking software and other tools in place to monitor vacancies, progress and placements. We have employment opportunities across Melbourne that we'll be recruiting for in early 2022 in finance, banking, IT, transport and retail. Success will be about connecting the 300 women coming through this program with these employment opportunities and supporting them for 6 to 12 months with a mentor so we can track that longer term success. As well as supporting these women to become financially secure through work, it'll also be about the flow-on effect it will have to their families, their children and their community.
Thank you very much, Liz. And as to funding, Fitted for Work, how much government funding does it receive and how much other funding and from what sources, please?
Yeah, so look, we need this funding because we know that Victorian women, and in particular women in Melbourne, have been hardest hit by the COVID pandemic. Funding that currently supports our organisation is tied to particular projects or cohorts, and government funding can be quite restrictive and prescriptive when it comes to supporting the women that come through our doors. We're about to open for face-to-face delivery at our Richmond site again, and we've got in-kind support in the way of volunteers and donated clothing ready to support these women. This funding is critical to supporting Melbourne women who would otherwise slip through the cracks. We have women who tell us through Marcia's work that they can't access DV support or job prep services because of their visa status or their perceived financial situation or even mental health. As an inclusive service, we will never turn any woman away.
Thank you very much, Liz and Marcia. Now, any questions in the chat?
There is. I'll read one from Amanda to start with. What is the typical time frame, perhaps to you, Liz, what is the typical time frame for a woman seeking employment from their first contact with Fitted for Work to securing a position they are excited to be starting?
Yeah, so every woman's journey is different and a woman can access any of our services and programs at any time on her journey into work, and she can circle back. Typically, on average, it does take around 73 days for a woman to find work when she accesses our services, which is actually above the national average according to the ABS.
Thank you. And I've also received, if anyone else has a question, pop it in the chat, but I have received a couple of direct questions. How does Fitted for Work select 300 women?
Yeah, so the 300 women will be referred into our services. So they'll come through referrals from either through Marcia's role, because she's connecting with women in the community. They might also come from other women's services or employment services, and women can also self-select to enter into this program as well.
Great. And how long does Fitted for Work continue to support clients after they get a job? That's another direct question.
Yeah, so women, once women are placed into employment, we support them for 6 to 12 months with mentoring support. So they've got that one-on-one support, but they've also got the option to access any of our services. Again, I got an email today from a woman who has been working in a role for 12 months now, but she needs new clothing as she's going back into the office, so she's going to access our outfitting again.
Great, thank you. And I think we've got time for one quick one, but I was actually just curious to know a little bit about the project for clients in both New South Wales and Victoria. Is it just Victoria or is it both?
So this program is specifically supporting Melbourne women.
Okay.
So we've got employment opportunities with employers in Melbourne. So this is about connecting women in Melbourne with those employment opportunities.
Yeah, good. Thank you, everybody. That was terrific.
Thank you very much, Liz and Marcia. I'll now hand back to Christine.
Thanks, Sarah. Last but not least is Free to Feed. Free to Feed is seeking support for their project titled Commercial Cooking Training and Employment for Refugee Women. This project aims to enhance the financial security, employment readiness, and personal and social well-being for 18 refugee women with a passion for cooking. I'm now pleased to introduce Free to Feed CEO Loretta Bulletin and Program Manager Kathy Scher, who will be speaking with Grants Committee member Fiona Reid.
Hi, Loretta and Kathy. Hi, Loretta and Kathy. Great to see you again. So would be fabulous if you could share with us all a bit more about Free to Feed, the organisation and the work that you do.
Sure. I'm a little bit nervous, excited and so intimidated by the calibre of previous presentations. So thank you so much for hanging on to hear from us. My name's Loretta and I'm the co-founder of Free to Feed, and I'm the child of migrants. I've been working on the front lines supporting refugees and people seeking asylum for the past 13 years. During this time, I've sat cross-legged on many rugs with women from Afghanistan, Iran, Syria, and Iraq, drinking tea. Theirs are the stories of courage and resilience, of families torn apart by conflicts, of children separated from their grasps on desperate journeys, of the deepest isolation and the most extreme vulnerability that you can imagine as they tried to rebuild their lives. Their stories inspired me to start Free to Feed. So Free to Feed creates empowering training and employment opportunities for refugees and people seeking asylum through the creation of shared food experiences. We run an accredited training program in hospitality and commercial cookery while hosting events that showcase their unique skills, and we bring the community together, over 30,000 attendees to date. Our work is based on best practice research and our experience that shows us that training and employment is what's really required to support refugee women to rebuild and to recover here in Australia. We are so proud to activate the courage and the resilience and the sense of hope that they carried with them against all odds in getting to Australia. I'm talking about leaky boats on the wild seas. And indeed, we have a strong track record of outcomes. So currently, 95% of our alumni have secured their post-program job. And we've delivered over 25,000 hours of paid work and financially supported 248 recently arrived people since we were founded 6 years ago.
That's fantastic. So tell us about this particular project and what's that about and why is it needed?
Hi, and thanks for asking, Fiona. My name's Kathy. I'm a mental health nurse and program manager at Free to Feed. I'm so proud to present this project to you today. It really is a culmination of all of Free to Feed's work. And when I think of this project, I think of a very popular Middle Eastern sweet called mamul. Think of a sweet, embracing rosewater dough on the outside, nurturing a solid, carefully packed walnut center. I invite you to imagine this project to be like this sweet, one that has two distinct textures. The crunchy walnuts being our grounded, accredited training and employment experience, being surrounded by a soft containing layer of mental health support and community connection. We know that employment and training opportunities actually abound in the community, but without the wraparound support, they are not being accessed by women of refugee backgrounds due to the complex barriers that they face. We also know that social and wellbeing support alone does not give a vulnerable woman the skills she needs to support her family. What's unique about this project is that we've combined the hard training and employment skills with the soft wraparound support. So what does this look like? Well, the 18 women will be able to access skill development and certified training via our partner Box Hill Institute delivered on site. Think small class sizes, translation support, a place for children to be minded while mums learn. We also offer paid work experience of up to 20 hours a week in our commercial kitchen, providing part-time, secure, livable wages. Women leave our program with 12 months of employment experience and a qualification. We offer personal development and career coaching to chart their next training or employment steps. Surrounding this, the women will have soft, nurturing and consistent community connection points and mental health and social work support, encouraging and enabling them to continue with this project until its completion. This features community celebrations, therapeutic check-ins, and lots of nurturing group learning support. Historically, we've found that our women in this cohort tend to be breadwinners. It is anticipated that this project will positively impact a further 50 immediate dependents with this shared lived experience. This project supports women who are located on the highest end of the social risk spectrum due to the absorption of childcare and carer responsibilities, and the barriers that this creates for social engagement, workforce engagement, and upward social mobility. It is well documented that 95% of women seeking asylum have an experience of trauma. They also have a higher prevalence of depression, anxiety, and a disproportionate experience of sexual and gender-based violence, in line with the many traumas associated with their resettlement journeys. All of these factors often requiring intensive and long-term support. Finally, imagine the ripple effect that the food made by the hands of these women will be enjoyed by literally thousands of community members over the next year. The conversations and the curiosity that these meals will spark are the ingredients for a more compassionate and connected society. In empowering us, you are supporting advocates and supporters of refugee women throughout our community.
That's such a strong image. Thank you so much. Now tell us about your funding requirements. Why do you need funding for this project, and do you have other sources of funding?
So as a social enterprise, Free to Feed runs catering and cooking experiences. I encourage you all to come along at some point. So basically the events that we're known for in the community. And through the projected income of these, Free to Feed is able to make a contribution of $86,000 to this project. I also want to highlight that we're making a commitment to cover the paid employment wages for these women in our commercial kitchen through this project. So the wraparound support that we offer our participants to enable their participation in a safe, trauma-informed environment is not something that can be funded through the market yet. In fact, at this early stage, it involves such a high degree of sheltering to some of the hostility that we all know exists in hospitality environments. But it is essential to their participation, which means that we rely on the generous support of philanthropy and the community to make our dreams come true. For this project, we've secured funding contributions from 2 other foundations, with the final contribution that we're seeking today from the Melbourne Women's Fund.
And when you run the project, how will you measure the success and the impact of this work?
Yeah, so we will know that this project has been a success when the women who have spent a whole year accessing opportunities to develop their skills, experiences, and connections can go on with far greater confidence and sense of purpose to secure employment, to start small businesses, or to take their next positive training or upskilling step. We have a monitoring evaluation framework which tracks and measures the data that we need to assess the progress and success of this project. In alignment with our theory of change, we measure outcomes at program commencement and completion and track for quarterly indicators. Our employment data tracks wages received, hours of paid training, and progress towards accreditation completion. We use the social determinants of health framework to measure and track qualitative outcomes, such as the number of therapeutic interventions received, resettlement, connection, and wellbeing indicators. And we continue to measure and track a woman's progress 12 months after program completion. This can be illustrated by some excerpts from this year's data that show that all of our participants experience a decreased sense of isolation and loneliness, increased sense and stability of mental health, and financial support that enables self-determination and the quality of life for her and her children.
That's such a comprehensive process. Thank you. And finally, do you have a longer-term goal for this project?
Thank you. As a social enterprise, Free to Feed has sustainability in mind, and it's built into our model. So our intention and our hope is to increase revenue from the delivery of our services to the community, to help to grow and strengthen the number of opportunities we can offer women from the refugee community. Pre-pandemic, we had secured 60% of our funding via this means, including covering our own operating expenses, with only targeted funding contributions required to support the delivery of our programs. Our goal in the long term is really a diminishing role for philanthropy. But for now, we're a small team, so all of the funding we receive goes directly to the heart of where it's needed. Through the delivery of this project next year, and with Kathy's incredible comprehensive M&E framework, we're hoping for positive case studies, which will put us in a really great position to replicate and scale this project. Our long-term goal for refugee women, because that's what we're really here for, is to level the playing field when it comes to accessing that really important accredited training and employment opportunities. So they have a place to go to translate all those beautiful but too often invisible skills and passions in cooking into something upon which they can establish stronger livelihoods. My hope, my personal hope, is that in 12 months' time, when I get to sit again on a beautiful rug and exchange stories with the women who have participated in this project, that this time they will share not only harrowing tales of displacement and deep loneliness, but instead they'll share with us tales of empowerment, tales of meeting hundreds of Melburnians and building strong connections, the dignity of having had 12 months of paid employment through Free to Feed, the relief, the sheer relief of having put bread on the table, and a supportive community, and most critically, genuine hope for their new lives in Australia. Thank you.
Loretta and Kathy, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring work with us. Now, let's see if Louise has any questions.
Good, thank you. And we've heard the meals are amazing, so thank you. So how do you publicise your catering capabilities?
So Free to Feed, we try to ensure that that we give as much TLC that we do to our program and our participants to getting the word out there about the services that we have. So we use marketing, we send newsletters, social media, as well as our business-to-business connection.
Thank you. Just looking in the chat, I've got a direct question here. How will the program make up the funding gap between what you have now and what you need?
There isn't a funding gap. I'm pleased to share that we've had 2 foundations come on board, as well as the in-kind contribution of Free to Feed in the gorgeous venue and really professional commercial kitchen that we've got here. There is no funding gap. The funding that we are seeking will complete and enable us to deliver this 12 months program.
Thank you. And I've just received one here. Sorry, one second. Could you elaborate about the Box Hill TAFE collaboration? What qualification do the participants get?
Yeah, I can take that one. There's a couple, which is wonderful. When we meet women, we assess them, their needs, what they need, and where they're at in terms of their English levels, their skills, the time that they can commit to the program. We have got 2 pre-employment programs that can offer as the first beginning step, which may also then progress into a certificate 3 in commercial cookery for those that are passionate and interested in that, or alternatively a certificate 3 in hospitality, which is for people that have that desire and passion to be front of house and be vivacious and meet Melburnians.
Great. think that's all we have time for, but thank you for a terrific presentation. Fiona.
Yes, well, thank you both, Kathy and Loretta, and I think we go back to Christine now.
Thank you, Fiona. And for those of you who don't know her, that was our events chair, Louise Potter, navigating the Q&A sections. It's a harder job than it looks, so thank you, Louise. Well, we've heard from all of our finalists. Congratulations to all of them for their presentations. You can imagine that conducting these within a virtual environment has stretched everyone's comfort zones, and they've all really stepped up to the challenge, and we're enormously grateful for their effort. It's now time for our members to vote for the recipients of our $75,000 signature grant and $35,000 nurturing grant. We'll take 10 minutes from now for you to complete your voting. So we'll see you back in 10 minutes, and we have a nifty countdown clock to help you keep track of that. Thanks to our marketing chair, who is also producing this event, Kate Harvey. So see you back in 10. Hello, welcome back. We're just tallying the votes now and getting the results confirmed by Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation. While we're waiting, we'll hear from the bold and courageous co-founders of Melbourne Women's Fund, Gillian Hund, OAM, and Patricia Burke, OAM. Gillian, let's start with you. Take it away.
Thanks, Christine, and hello, everyone. Pat and I are always thrilled to have this opportunity to thank you all for your contribution to the success of tonight's awards event. Without our members' annual and lifetime membership donations, none of our impactful grant making would be possible. And we are so grateful that your support has been unwavering during this past year. You may not be aware, but we actually have many different ways that you can give, which boosts the annual grants pool of funds. So I'll just quickly run through them for you. We have corporate memberships available, which means a company can choose to make a tax-deductible donation of, say, $5,000, and the company can then choose 5 members who would like to become members. We also have workplace giving donations that, matched with the donor's own gift, will total the $1,000 membership threshold. We do, of course, accept smaller donations from people who just want to make a gift to add their support to Melbourne Women's Fund during the financial year. Also, some members may choose to match a friend's donation to uplift them to an annual membership status. How marvellous is that idea? Finally, for those who with the ability to invest $25,000, which I know is a large amount of funds, this donation enables them to become a life member. And these funds are invested into our endowment fund, which is managed by the Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation. And last but not least, we have members who use our research and due diligence to make what we call Spark grants. That is, they directly donate from their own funds to one or more of our annual finalist organisations, and so boost the funding they receive. We think this is a great form of leveraging our expertise with their philanthropy, so it's a win-win situation for all. All of this information is also available on our website, so please do take a look if one of these forms of giving has sparked your interest. Now it's my pleasure to hand over to Pat for the very necessary thank yous to the committee members who have worked very hard to make tonight's event possible and such a success. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Gillian. Thanks, Jillian. And Ricky, that you've just put a brilliant message in the chat function. Never stop selling. Of course, membership could be a lovely gift for someone special this Christmas. What a great idea. I love doing the thank yous. We've got a lot of people to thank, and the entire volunteer force, and force is the best word. This has been a force of energy, this committee that has worked so hard. Everyone on each of our 8 committees who has helped us through yet another year under exceptional circumstances during these many months of the pandemic. It's a labor of love, and we thank our dedicated volunteer leaders who juggle many responsibilities in their lives with work and family, and their dedication to MWF is a gift. Hearty thanks to the finalists. Your presentations were incredible tonight. It's a privilege to listen. And the undertaking of our grants journey with your virtual site visits and the awards night presentation tonight, it requires no small amount of bravery. And every one of you are very deserving tonight. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the work you've put into it and the passion you bring to your jobs every day. Kirsten Bartlett, I understand you did the pitch training with the finalists. For those of you, the finalists who got to work with her, Kirsten is a natural, and glad you had that chance. She's very special. Our sponsors, Bendigo Community Bank in Elwood. Carol Mackey, I know you're in the room somewhere. Thank you, one of our generous members who enabled that generous sponsorship, and thank you, mate. And Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation, who's been with us all these years and continues to provide the most incredible support to us. We're grateful to you every day. And so for tonight, nods to the marketing chair, Kate Harvey, who is a wizard, and you would have seen her tile. I think she was up there twice. There were 2 versions of Kate in the room tonight. Grants Committee co-chairs, Amanda Thornton and Simone Clancy, absolute champions. Events Chair Louise Potter tonight, there you are, you've done an incredible job. And our site captains, Simone Clancy, Joe Kavanaugh, OAM, Diane Carey, Kate Eddy, Sarah Davies, Fiona Reed, you all did just a champion job, and it's been a privilege to watch how the evening has gone. So to each of our wonderful members for your generosity, we couldn't do our work without all of you. So thank you for your support in making this possible, and onward to Christine, you're taking over from here. Anyway, thank you all.
Yeah, just waiting for confirmation here that we're clear on who our winners are. What we might do, okay.
We're ready, Christine.
Oh, good. That's great.
I was going to say, is this where someone plays music or tells a bad joke or what?
Like, ooh. Drum roll. All right, so the results are in. To announce the recipient of the 2021 Melbourne Women's Fund $35,000 nurturing grant and $75,000 signature grant, our Melbourne Women's Fund Grant Committee co-chairs Amanda Thornton and Simone Clancy. So we'll start with Amanda announcing the nurturing grant.
Great, thanks Christine, and thanks Pat and Gillian for all your kind words. And because we're both co-chairs of the Grants Committee, we just have to thank all the captains again, because it's an amazing job, and thanking all the finalists, because it's quite an end-to-end process for all the finalists to apply to Melbourne Women's Fund right through to tonight. So the winner of the nurturing grant, it was so close, but it is the Social Studio. So congratulations to the Social Studio. And I'd just like to invite Daewee and Kate, if you'd like to just say a couple of words before we move along.
Sure. So surprised and just thrilled because we have a huge amount of respect for Juno and Riverdale. We think the work that they do is incredible, and I think we share a lot of the same values. So, you know, nothing else. We're just excited to kind of further those conversations with those organisations beyond this. But this means an enormous amount for us. Thank you so much. We're just thrilled, and please come and visit us. Either in the workshop or in the retail space. We would love to have you guys at any point in time and talk more about the work we do and meet some of the people we work with.
Just can't believe it. Thank you so much. Yeah. I can't wait to tell the team. They're going to be so stoked. Amazing.
Thank you so much. And it was, you know, you're in fantastic company tonight, and we really look forward to following your progress and everyone, the other two finalists and the nurturing grant as well. So congratulations again. And I'll move over to Simone now, who's going to announce the $75,000 signature grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And I'm delighted to announce our winner for the Melbourne Women's Fund Signature Grant Award for 2021 is Fitted for Work. Liz and Marsha. Yeah, fantastic. Marsha's celebrating wildly. Marsha, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so much. I'm so touched to be able to now provide referral pathways for women, and just great to be in a space where women can be empowered and respected. And I thank you, because it's going to go a long way to help with their vulnerabilities. I'm dealing with them every day. The pandemic it's hard. It's making people so insecure, and the employment is really the key to solve so many issues. So I thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
And my dear colleague Liz.
Well, I don't know if there's time, but I just wanted to say thank you to the Melbourne Women's Fund and all the members for your time, and a huge thank you to all the organisations that presented tonight. I mean, amazing. And we'll be reaching out to all of you because, you know, everyone just does such fantastic work. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Congratulations again. And yes, that's fantastic. And we do always love to see the collaboration that sometimes springs from these events between our finalists. Exactly. So yeah, that's wonderful to see you extend that invitation to all our finalists. Thank you, Christine.
Congratulations, the Social Studio and Fitted for Work. Gosh, it would be so great to be together in person to hear the clapping and the cheering, but we know it's out there, and we look forward to building partnerships with both of you and hearing about your progress. We endeavor to stay in touch with all of our finalists. As I mentioned earlier, they're all deserving, regardless of whether they won one of the bigger grants. For that reason, every year we try to ensure our runners-up receive a merit award and untied funding. This year, each of our runners-ups will receive $5,000, the largest amount we've ever awarded to our merit awards. In our merit awards, we also look forward to supporting all their achievements and announcements through our social media networks. We encourage you to consider them in your personal giving as well. As Pat said, there are so many people for us to thank. Of course, we thank our sponsors, Bendigo Community Bank Elwood and Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation. Bendigo Community Bank Elwood has sponsored this event for several years now, and their support has been extremely valuable, particularly during these troublesome times. Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation's generous sponsorship is actually just one of many ways they support us as our parent foundation. They play a key role in helping us persevere in our mission. Once again, thanks to our members and non-member donors for making our work possible, and sincerest gratitude to our volunteer team. These women are passionate, dedicated, mutually supportive, and delightful. I am continuously in awe of how they stick with MWF's work despite the demands of jobs, families, and their personal challenges related to COVID. A special nod to our task force, who have made tonight and all our virtual events possible this year: Kate Harvey, Simone Clancy, Amanda Thornton, and Louise Potter. They are all an absolute privilege to work with. I'm getting a little emotional. Before we go, Thursday, say February 27th, that Thursday, for our first event of the year, which will be a big dinner to just bring our Melbourne Women's Fund community together after being separated for so long. And that's a wrap. Here's to everybody having a safe and free summer. Team, if you want to stick around for a little while afterwards, please do. And to everybody, good night and stay well and hopeful.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.